Often in life, we find ourselves trying to get through doors that won't open. We try, push, and strive, believing we know exactly where we should be. We make our own plans, set our own schedules, and expect things to unfold as we understand them. But what happens when those doors stay closed? What happens when opportunities slip away? When prayers go unanswered? When life takes an unexpected turn? In those moments, frustration creeps in, and doubt speaks to us. We begin to wonder if God is even listening. But let me tell you something, God isn't ignoring you. He's not holding back his blessings, nor is he delaying things for fun. He is a loving father, a wise guide, a perfect leader. He sees what you can't and knows what you don't. Imagine a child reaching for something dangerous, maybe a flame or a sharp object, something that seems harmless but could cause harm. A loving parent steps in and removes the danger, and the child protests, unaware of the danger they were just kept from. That's how God works in our lives. We think we know what's best, but he sees beyond our vision. He knows which doors will lead to blessing and which ones will lead to harm. You might be praying for a job, a relationship, or an opportunity that looks good to you, but if God hasn't opened that door, trust that he has a reason. Perhaps he's protecting you from unseen harm, or maybe he has something much better planned for you. The problem is that we get impatient. We get tired of waiting. We start forcing ourselves into places God never meant for us. And when things go wrong, we wonder why. But hear me today, when God shuts a door, it's never to harm you. It's to guide you towards something better. The question is, will you trust him? Will you surrender your will, your timetable, your expectations, and let him lead your steps? Because when God opens the right door, no one can shut it. And when he closes the wrong one, it's because he loves you too much to let you walk through it. Not every door that opens is from God. Just because an opportunity shows up doesn't mean it's part of his perfect plan for your life. The world has many open doors. Some lead to success, some to failure, some to temporary pleasure, and some to eternal regret. This is why we need discernment. Often people walk through doors that seem right, only to find themselves stuck in situations they were never meant to be in. They take jobs offering more money, but lose their peace. They enter relationships that seem promising but pull them away from God. They chase dreams that bring worldly success, but leave them feeling empty. Why? Because not every open door is from God. The enemy knows how to make the wrong path look appealing. He knows how to present opportunities that seem like blessings but are actually distractions from your true calling. That's why we must seek God before moving forward. The Bible says there's a way that seems right to man, but its end leads to death. Just because a door is open doesn't mean you should walk through it. Some doors are tests, others are traps. Some are meant to build your faith by teaching you to wait for the right one. So how do you know if a door is from God? His doors bring peace, not confusion. They align with his word, not with compromise. His doors lead to growth, not destruction. The right door won't force you to sacrifice your integrity, your values, or your relationship with him. Before making any decision, pray. Don't rush in. Seek his guidance. Ask, Lord, is this from you? And then wait. If it's from God, it will not only be open, but it will also be the right door. And when it's right, nothing can close it. Waiting is one of the hardest things to do. We live in a world that values speed, efficiency, and immediate results. We want answers now, breakthroughs now, open doors now. But God doesn't follow human schedules. His timing is not our timing, and his delays are not denied. When God asks us to wait, it's never wasted time, it's preparation time. Look at the greatest men and women in the Bible. Before they stepped into their calling, they had to wait. Joseph had a dream of leadership, but he spent years in prison before it happened. Moses knew he was called to lead, but he spent 40 years in the wilderness before God sent him. Even Jesus, the Son of God, waited 30 years before starting his public ministry. Why? Because God was preparing them for the doors he would open. When we rush ahead of God, we make mistakes. We step into things we're not ready for. We take on battles we weren't meant to fight. But when we wait on God, he strengthens, shapes, and refines us. He prepares us for the blessing. So when the door opens, we can walk through it with wisdom, maturity, and some of you have been waiting for God to open a door in your life. Maybe it's a new opportunity, a breakthrough, a change in your situation, and you're wondering, God, why haven't you answered yet? But let me tell you, God is working, even in the way. He's aligning things in the background that you can't see. He's shaping you for what's ahead. So don't despise the waiting season. Use it to grow in faith, to get closer to Him, to prepare your heart. Because when the right door opens, you won't just walk through it, you'll be ready for it. And when God's timing aligns, nothing can stop the blessing He has for you. We've all had it happen. A door we desperately wanted suddenly closes. A dream we chased falls apart, or an opportunity we thought was perfect slips away. In those moments, it's easy to feel disappointed, frustrated, even abandoned. We wonder, God, why did you let this happen? But what if I told you that closed doors are often the very thing that leads us to something greater? God sees the full picture of our life. He knows what lies ahead, what dangers are behind the doors we were never meant to walk through. Sometimes the doors we try to force open would have led to destruction, heartbreak, or wasted years. What we see as rejection is often God's protection. What feels like a missed opportunity is actually divine redirection. Think about it. If you had gotten everything you wanted in life, would you really be where God wants you to be? How many times have you looked back and thanked God for not giving you what you once begged for? The relationship that ended, the job that didn't work out, the plans that fell apart. What if those closed doors were stepping stones to something better? The truth is, when God closes a door, it's not to punish you, it's to guide you. He knows the path you should take, and loves you too much to let you settle for less than His best. If you're facing a closed door right now, don't let discouragement take over. Instead, trust that God is leading you. Keep your faith strong. The door He opens next will be the right one. And when He opens it, no one can shut it. Faith is not about having all the answers. It's about trusting God, even when you don't. When He opens a door, He rarely shows you everything on the other side. He doesn't always give you a detailed map or explain every step of the journey. Instead, He says, walk by faith, not by sight. Many people hesitate when God opens a door because they don't feel ready. They want guarantees. They want everything to be perfect before they take the first step. But that's not how faith works. When God called Abraham, He told him to leave his homeland and go to a land He would show him. No details, no roadmap, just a call to trust. When Peter stepped out of the boat to walk on water, Jesus didn't calm the storm first. He simply said, come. Faith requires action. Some of you are standing in front of a door God has already opened, but fear is keeping you from stepping through. You're waiting for more clarity, a perfect plan, or total certainty. But God is saying, trust me. You don't have to see the whole picture, just take the next. If the door is from God, He'll provide what you need along the way. He'll give you strength for the journey, wisdom for the decisions, and grace for the challenges. But you must be willing to walk in obedience. The greatest blessings often come when we step out in faith, even without all the answers. So don't let fear hold you back. If God is leading you, move forward. The same God who opened the door will be with you every step of the way. And when you trust Him, you'll see that His way is always greater than what you could have planned. Nobody likes closed doors. When something doesn't work out, we feel rejected, forgotten, maybe even punished. But have you ever considered that God uses those closed doors not just to guide you, but to build you? Faith isn't just about walking through open doors, it's about trusting God even when doors stay shut. Waiting seasons, delays, and disappointments aren't wasted in God's hands. When you pray for patience, He doesn't just give it to you, He teaches you. When you pray for stronger faith, He doesn't simply hand it over, He puts you in situations where you must trust Him. Every closed door is an opportunity to grow. It's a test of faith, a moment of refining. Think of David. He was anointed king as a young man, but he didn't sit on the throne right away. Instead, he spent years running for his life, hiding in caves, facing betrayal. God had already opened the door to his destiny, but before he could step into it, he had to be prepared. The hardships, the closed doors, the waiting, it all shaped him into the man God needed him to be. Right now, you might feel stuck behind a closed door. You've prayed, you've waited, but nothing's changing. But hear me, God is working in ways you can't see. He's strengthening you, shaping you, preparing you for the right door at the right time. So don't grow weary, don't lose hope. Keep trusting, keep believing, and keep walking in obedience. When that door finally opens, you'll realize that the waiting, the struggles, and the setbacks weren't delays. They were part of God's perfect plan to prepare you for the blessing He has in store. Not every door that looks good is from God. The enemy knows how to disguise traps as opportunity. He knows how to make deception look like a blessing. And if we're not careful, We'll walk through doors that seem right, but lead us far from God's plan. Think about Jesus in the wilderness. The devil offered him what seemed like an easy way out: power, glory, and provision. He said, "If you are the Son of God, turn these stones into bread." It looked like an open door, but it was a trap. The enemy was trying to lure him into self-reliance, to step outside of God's will. But Jesus saw through it. He refused to take the shortcut. He chose obedience over opportunity. How many times do we fall for doors that aren't from God? A job that pays well but pulls us away from our faith. A relationship that seems exciting but compromises our values. A business deal that looks profitable but requires us to cut corners. Not every open door is a blessing. Some are distractions, some are temptations, some are direct attacks from the enemy. This is why discernment is so important. The Bible says, "Test the spirits to see whether they are from God." 1 John 4:1. If a door requires you to compromise your integrity, it's not from God. If it leads you away from your faith, it's not from God. If it fills you with anxiety, confusion, and unrest, it's not from God. The enemy's doors often look easier. They promise quick success, instant gratification, and worldly approval. But they come at a cost. God's doors, on the other hand, may require faith, patience, and obedience. But they always lead to life. So before you step through any open door, ask God, "Is this from you?" Seek His guidance. Test the opportunity against His word. Follow His because when the right door comes, you won't have to force it, fear it, or compromise for it. It will be from God, and it will lead you exactly where He wants you to go. When God opens a door, it comes with peace. It may require faith, and it may stretch you, but it will never bring confusion or desperation. God's direction doesn't come with anxiety or fear. It comes with assurance, even in the unknown. Too often we chase opportunities that look good but leave us restless. We force doors open because we think we need to, only to find ourselves drained, struggling, and uncertain. That's not how God works. His will is not chaotic. His plans don't come with stress or confusion. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. If you are forcing something, if you are losing sleep over a decision, if you feel torn between what you know is right and what seems easier, then it may not be from God. Look at how Jesus operated. He never rushed. He never panicked. He walked in peace, even when faced with storms, opposition, and the cross itself. That same peace is how God leads His people. When the right door opens, it will not pull you into fear. It will pull you into You may not have all the answers, but you will have an inner knowing that God is in control. That doesn't mean there won't be challenges. Even God's open doors require trust and perseverance. But deep down, there will be confidence that you are where you need to be. You won't have to beg for it. You won't have to manipulate it. You won't have to compromise for it. God's doors come with peace because they are part of His perfect plan. So if you are standing before an opportunity, ask yourself, does this bring peace, or does it bring pressure? Does it align with God's word, or does it require compromise? Because the right door, the one God opens, will not just be available, it will be right. And when you step through it, you'll know that His hand guided you there. When God opens a door, no one can shut Him out. No amount of opposition, no force of darkness, no human interference can stop what God has planned for your life. When He declares a path for you, it doesn't matter who doubts you, who stands against you, or what obstacles arise. His will shall be done. We see this truth throughout Scripture. When God opened the door for Noah to build the ark, the world mocked him, but the rain still came. When God opened the door for Joseph to become a ruler in Egypt, his brothers betrayed him, but the dream was still fulfilled. When God opened the way for the Israelites to escape slavery, Pharaoh tried to stop them, but the Red Sea still parted. Nothing and no one can close a door that God Himself has opened. Yet so often, we fear people's opinions. We worry about resistance, setbacks, and delay. We think that if a door comes with challenges, maybe it wasn't meant to be. But hear me today, just because there is opposition, doesn't mean the door isn't from God. In fact, many times the right doors will come with challenges, because the enemy wants to stop you from stepping into your calling. But here's the good news. If God has opened the door, it will remain open until you walk through it. No one can sabotage what God has ordained. No critic, no enemy, no obstacle can change His plan. The only thing that can keep you from stepping into His blessing is your own doubt and hesitation. So if you know God has opened a door, don't be afraid. Walk forward in faith. Trust that His power is greater than any resistance. Because when he opens a door, it's for his purpose, and nothing in heaven or on earth can shut what he has declared. When God opens a door, it won't require you to compromise your faith, your integrity, or your relationship with him. The right doors align with his word. They don't demand that you sacrifice your character to walk through them. Too many people chase success at the cost of their soul. They take shortcuts, bend the truth, and make choices that go against God's principles just to get ahead. They tell themselves, "I'll fix it later," or "God will understand." But listen, God's blessings don't come through compromise. A door that requires you to lower your standards, betray your convictions, or step outside of God's will is not from him. Remember Daniel, he had every opportunity to compromise in Babylon. He could have eaten the king's food, bowed to idols, and gone along with the culture, but he refused. He stayed faithful, and because of that, God opened doors that no man could shut. He was promoted, protected, and given influence in a foreign land, not because he chased after opportunity, but because he remained obedient. God doesn't need you to sin to bless you. He doesn't need you to lie, cheat, manipulate, or cut corners to fulfill his plan. The doors he opens will never require you to abandon your faith. They may stretch you, they may require trust, but they will never pull you away from him. So before you step through any door, ask yourself, does this align with God's word? Will this bring me closer to him, or pull me away? Am I compromising my values to make this work? Because if the door is truly from God, it will lead you into his presence, not away from him. And the blessings that come through obedience will always be far greater than anything gained through compromise. When God opens the right door, it will bring lasting blessings, not temporary gain. Too many people chase quick success, instant gratification, and fleeting rewards, only to find themselves empty and unfulfilled. But when God opens a door, it leads to something greater, something that lasts beyond the moment. The world teaches us to chase after wealth, status, and recognition. It tells us that success is measured by what we achieve, how much we own, and how others see us. But God's blessings are different. The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. When God opens a door, the blessing that comes with it will not bring regret, guilt, or emptiness. It won't leave you feeling like something is missing. Think about Solomon. He had everything the world could offer, wealth, wisdom, power, but in the end he realized that life without God was meaningless. He said, "Vanity of vanities, all is vanity." Ecclesiastes 1:2. The greatest doors are not the ones that bring temporary success. They're the ones that bring eternal impact. That's why we must be careful not to chase doors that promise quick results, but leave us spiritually bankrupt. In life, we often face moments when things don't unfold the way we expect. The journey becomes uncertain, and the weight of unanswered prayers or closed doors becomes overwhelming. Yet in the midst of this uncertainty, God's plan remains unshaken. It's in these very moments that our faith is tested, not because God wants to see us suffer, but because he is preparing us for something greater. When we face challenges, we have a choice to remain faithful and trust in his timing, or to grow frustrated and give up. It is in waiting that God refines our hearts, shaping us into individuals who are capable of handling the blessings he desires to give us. God doesn't just want us to have good things. He wants us to be able to sustain them when they arrive. Much like a child who needs time to grow, we too must mature in our faith before God can truly open the doors that will lead us to the fullness of his plans for our lives. This maturing process, though painful at times, is a necessary step to ensuring that we don't squander the blessings we're meant to receive. Each trial, each closed door, and each delay are part of God's ultimate purpose for our lives. While it may be difficult to understand in the moment, in hindsight, we can often look back and see how his plan unfolded perfectly. What seemed like a setback often turns out to be a step forward in God's divine design. Trusting God means understanding that his wisdom surpasses our own. We may think we know what's best, but he knows the bigger picture. The challenges we face are often reminders that we don't have the capacity to see what lies ahead, but God does. He knows when the right time will come, and he prepares us for it. Sometimes the waiting season is about more than just us. It's about the people we're meant to serve. There are times when God keeps us waiting because he is aligning the right circumstances, people, and opportunities at just the right moment. We might be frustrated by the lack of progress, but God is not unaware of our situation. He's working on things behind the scenes that we can't see. The relationships, The lessons, the timing, all of it comes together when we trust in His process. Waiting is not about idleness, it's a time for preparation. It's during these moments that we grow in wisdom, patience, and perseverance. The more we learn to trust God in the waiting, the more ready we become for the doors that He will open. While it's easy to grow impatient and feel like we've been forgotten, it's essential to remember that God is faithful. He's never early and never late. He is always on time according to His perfect will. The challenge then becomes about learning to surrender our own sense of urgency and allow God to guide us in His way. It's in those moments of surrender that we begin to experience the peace that transcends understanding. Instead of focusing on the door that hasn't opened yet, we learn to focus on what God is doing in us during the waiting period. When we shift our perspective from frustration to trust, we allow God to do a deeper work within us. When we finally step into the blessings He has prepared, we realize that the journey was worth it. What seemed like a delay was actually a divine detour that led us exactly where we needed to go. We are equipped to handle the blessings that come our way because God has been building our strength in the waiting. At times it can feel as if we're standing at the edge of a great opportunity, but the door simply won't open. This is when fear often creeps in. Fear of failure, fear of missing out, fear of what might happen if we don't take that step. But it's in these moments that we must remember that God is not a God of confusion. If a door opens, He will make it clear. If it's not the right time, He will make that clear as well. God's doors come with peace, not anxiety. When we feel an overwhelming sense of fear or uncertainty, it's important to pause and seek His guidance. God's will is not filled with chaos. It brings peace. In fact, often, the doors that appear most attractive are the ones that require the most caution. The enemy knows how to disguise temptation as opportunity, leading us to believe that what we see is what we need. But God's doors are different. They align with His word and His purpose. They require us to trust, to step out in faith, and to rely on His strength rather than our own. When we walk through the right doors, we don't need to manipulate circumstances or compromise our integrity. We can walk through with confidence, knowing that God is leading us and that no obstacle can stop the path He has set before us. Trusting God means recognizing that His plans are always for our good, even when things don't look the way we imagined. We often picture success in a certain way, through fame, wealth, or recognition, but God's definition of success is far different. Success in God's eyes is about alignment with His purpose, not personal achievement. It's not about how many doors we can walk through, but about how faithful we are in walking through the doors He opens for us. Every time we choose to follow God's plan, even when it's difficult or uncomfortable, we experience growth, and this growth prepares us for the doors that are still to come. God is always preparing us for what's next. And though we may not understand the process, it's through that process that we are made ready for His greater purpose. The waiting seasons, the struggles, and the closed doors are not signs of God's rejection, but of His preparation. He's getting us ready for the next phase of His plan for our lives. Every obstacle we overcome, every delay we face, is building our faith, teaching us patience, and refining our character. Through this process, we begin to see God's hand in every detail of our life. It's easy to see only the immediate problem, but when we step back and look at the bigger picture, we can see how God's plan is unfolding. The closed doors, the waiting, and the detours all have a purpose. They lead us to the exact place where we need to be, exactly when we need to be there. And when the right door opens, we are fully equipped to step through it. We may not always understand why things are happening the way they are, but we can trust that God's timing is perfect. As we walk in faith, we begin to understand that the journey is just as important as the destination. It's in the waiting, the trusting, and the obedience that we experience the fullness of God's presence. Each step we take brings us closer to the blessings He has prepared for us, and the journey itself becomes a testament to His faithfulness. So as we face the doors that are closed, we can take heart, knowing that God is preparing us for something better. We may not see it now, but in time, we will understand that the waiting was worth it. The doors God opens are not just for our benefit, they are for His glory. Each opportunity, each blessing, is an invitation to bring His light into the world. When we step through the right doors, we become a part of God's greater plan, a plan that reaches beyond our personal success and into His divine purpose. The blessings that come with obedience are eternal, not temporary. They are blessings that build us up, strengthen our faith, and position us to be a blessing to others. So when you stand before a closed door, don't lose hope. Trust that God is working in the waiting. He's preparing you for something far greater than you can imagine. When the right door opens, walk through it with confidence, knowing that it is part of His perfect plan. And when you look back, you'll see that every step, every closed door, and every detour was a necessary part of the journey that led you to exactly where you were meant to be. When we walk through life, we are constantly faced with challenges that test our faith, patience, and resilience. These challenges often seem to come when we least expect them, and at times they leave us feeling overwhelmed and uncertain about the future. Yet it is in these very moments of uncertainty that God's presence becomes even more real and undeniable. We may feel alone, but God is always near, working in ways that we cannot see. It is in the darkest times that His light shines the brightest, guiding us through the storm. The reality is that life is full of twists and turns, but God's plan for us is unshakable. We might not always understand why things happen the way they do, but we can be certain that God is leading us to exactly where we need to be. This is where faith becomes crucial. Faith is not just believing in God when things are going well. Faith is trusting in His plan when we are in the midst of confusion and adversity. It is in these times that our faith is stretched, and we are given the opportunity to grow deeper in our relationship with God. Trusting God when doors are closed or when our prayers seem unanswered is a powerful act of faith. It's easy to trust God when everything is falling into place. But when life doesn't go according to our plan, that's when we are called to dig deeper into our faith. Our faith is not just for the easy moments, but for the challenging ones. This is where the true test lies. When we surrender to God's will, even when we don't understand why something is happening, we show that we trust Him completely. We acknowledge that He sees the bigger picture, and we let go of our own desire to control every aspect of our lives. God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't align with our own. We may feel like we're stuck or that we are missing out on opportunities, but God is not slow in fulfilling His promises. He is always working behind the scenes, preparing us for the right moment. Just like a farmer who plants seeds and waits patiently for the harvest, God is working in us, shaping us and preparing us to reap the blessings He has in store. We must learn to trust the process, even when it feels like nothing is happening. In those moments, it is essential to remember that God is not idle. He is always working, even when we can't see it. God knows exactly what we need, and He knows exactly when we need it. It is in the waiting that our hearts are refined, our patience is tested, and our trust in God is deepened. Waiting can be one of the most difficult things to do, especially in a world that values instant gratification. We live in a society that encourages quick results, immediate responses, and rapid success. But God doesn't work on our timeline. He works according to His perfect timing, and this often requires us to wait. The waiting season is not wasted time. It is preparation for what is ahead. God uses this time to shape us, build our character, and teach us valuable lessons that we will need when the right door opens. It is in the waiting that we develop endurance and strength. When we finally step into the blessings God has for us, we will realize that the waiting was not in vain. It was during this time that God was preparing us to handle what He had in store for us. He knew that if we had rushed ahead, we might not have been ready for the blessings He had planned. We must trust in His timing, knowing that He will never give us something we're not ready for. As we wait, we are not sitting idly by, we are being transformed. God uses every season of our lives for His glory, and He is always working in us. It is important to keep our hearts open during the waiting period, allowing God to teach us and guide us. We must remember that God's ways are higher than ours, and His plans are greater than we can ever imagine. Even when we don't see the full picture, we must trust that He is leading us exactly where we need to go. As we trust in His timing, we begin to understand that the waiting is part of the process. Every challenge, every delay, and every closed door is leading us to the right place. Sometimes the closed doors are God's way of protecting us from something that would harm us. We may not understand why something didn't work out the way we wanted, but God's protection is always for our good. What may seem like a missed opportunity could be God's way of guiding us towards something better. We need to learn to let go of our expectations and trust that God's plan is far greater than anything we could ever imagine. He knows the desires of our hearts, and He knows what is best for us. As we surrender to His will, we begin to experience peace, knowing that He is in control. There is a peace that comes with trusting in God's plan, even when we don't understand it. It is the peace that surpasses all understanding, the peace that only comes from knowing that God is in control. This peace allows us to move forward with confidence, knowing that the doors God opens for us are the right ones. We don't have to force anything. We don't have to manipulate circumstances or try to make things happen on our own. When God opens a door, it will be clear, and we will know that it is from Him. We can walk through it with boldness, knowing that He is leading us. The journey of trusting God is not always easy, but it is always worth it. Every step we take in faith brings us closer to the fulfillment of His promises. As we walk through the doors He opens, we become part of His greater plan. The blessings we receive are not just for our benefit, but for the benefit of others. God's plan is always bigger than just us. It extends beyond our personal success and into His kingdom. Each door that opens is an opportunity to bring His light into the world. Whether it is a new job, a relationship, or a new ministry, every opportunity is a chance to glorify God and advance His kingdom. We must be willing to step through the doors that God opens for us, knowing that His purpose is greater than anything we could have planned. Sometimes the doors God opens for us will be different from what we expect. We may have a certain idea in mind for our lives, but God may have something completely different in store. This can be difficult to accept, but we must remember that God's plan is always for our good. He knows what we need, even when we trusting Him means being willing to step into the unknown, to walk through doors that might seem uncertain, but knowing that He is leading us every step of the way. We don't have to have everything figured out. We just need to trust that God will provide for us and guide us as we walk in obedience. When we step through the doors God opens, we step into His plan for our lives. We may not know what the future holds, but we know that God holds the future, and that is enough. As we walk in faith, we begin to see the blessings unfold. The doors that were once closed open wide, and we find ourselves in places we never thought possible. These blessings are not just for us. They are for His kingdom. Each step we take in faith brings us closer to His perfect plan, and each door we walk through is an opportunity to serve Him and bring glory to His name. It is in the waiting, the trusting, and the walking through the doors that God opens that we truly experience His goodness and His faithfulness. So as you stand at the doors in your life, trust that God is working, trust that His timing is perfect, and when the right door opens, step through it with confidence, knowing that it is part of His perfect plan for your life. As we journey through life, we often encounter moments of uncertainty and doubt. These moments can make us feel as though we are lost or stuck, with no clear direction or purpose. Yet it is in these moments that our faith is truly tested. Life doesn't always unfold the way we envision it, and sometimes it can feel like we are walking in circles, chasing after things that seem just out of reach. But when we look closer, we see that God is always at work behind the scenes, even when we can't see the full picture. Every step we take, even the ones that seem like detours, is part of His master plan. God's ways are often not our ways. While we might look at our lives and see obstacles, setbacks, or delays, God sees these as opportunities for growth and refinement. Each challenge is a chance for us to develop strength, patience, and character. The closed doors we face are not always signs of failure, but rather signs that God is protecting us, guiding us, and preparing us for something greater. When we walk through life, we can sometimes be so focused on what is right in front of us that we fail to realize that the very thing we think we need might not be what God has for us at all. We may be praying for a job, a relationship, or a change in our circumstances, believing that it is the answer to our problems. But what if God has something else in mind, something even better than what we imagined? When God closes a door, it's not a rejection, it's a redirection. He knows what's ahead and He sees what we cannot. We might feel disappointed or frustrated, but in reality, He is saving us from something that would ultimately harm us or derail us from His purpose. In those moments of disappointment, we must choose to trust that God has a bigger plan, one that is far greater than anything we could have envisioned for ourselves. As we continue to walk in faith, we begin to understand that the journey is just as important as the destination. Every moment of waiting, every step of obedience is shaping us into the person God wants us to be. The process of waiting isn't always easy, and it's easy to become impatient or discouraged. But this is where we learn to trust in God's perfect timing. We may not always see the full picture, but we can trust that He is in control. God's timing is never early, and it's never late. It's always perfect. We might not understand why things are happening the way they are, but if we stay faithful and trust His plan, we will see that it all unfolds exactly as it should. One of the most difficult aspects of waiting is surrendering our own expectations and allowing God to lead us in His way. We often think we know what is best for our lives, and we make our plans based on what we believe will make us happy or fulfilled. However, God's plans are far greater than anything we could have imagined. When we surrender to His will, we are opening ourselves up to the possibility of something greater than we could have ever dreamed. We let go of the need to control every aspect of our lives and allow Him to take the lead. This act of surrender is not passive, it is an active choice to trust God even when we don't have all the answers. It's about choosing to follow Him with confidence, knowing that He will never lead us astray. Surrendering to God means that we let go of our need to know the outcome and trust that He has our best interest at heart. As we allow God to lead us, we also need to recognize that His plan may look different from what we expected. It's easy to assume that the doors God opens will be the ones we want to walk through, but sometimes the doors He opens are not the ones we envisioned. This is where faith becomes essential. It's easy to follow God when things are going the way we want them to, but it takes true faith to follow Him when the path is unclear. God doesn't always show us the entire road ahead. Sometimes He only gives us the next step. This is where we learn to walk by faith, not by sight. We may not know what the future holds, but we can trust that God is guiding us every step of the way. Walking by faith means moving forward with confidence, even when we don't have all the answers. It means trusting that God will reveal the next step when the time is right. As we continue to walk by faith, we begin to experience the peace that comes from knowing that God is in control. When we trust Him, we can rest in the assurance that He is leading us exactly where we need to go. This peace is not based on our circumstances, but on the confidence that God is working everything out for our good. It's easy to feel overwhelmed or anxious when we don't know what lies ahead, but when we trust God's timing, we can experience peace in the midst of uncertainty. Even when the door ahead seems closed or the road seems unclear, we can trust that God is opening doors at the perfect time. Sometimes the door that seems the hardest to walk through is the one that leads to the greatest blessing. The path may be difficult, but it is in walking through that door that we will experience the fullness of God's purpose for our lives. Each step we take in faith is a step closer to the blessings He has in store. And even though we may not always understand the journey, we can trust that God is guiding us and He will never lead us astray. The waiting period, though challenging, is not wasted time. It is during this time that God is shaping us, strengthening us, and preparing us for what is to come. Every challenge we face is an opportunity to grow, to become more like Christ, and to deepen our relationship with Him. The more we surrender to His will and trust in His timing, the more we are prepared to walk through the doors He has opened for us. The key to walking through the doors God opens is trust. Trusting that His plans are greater than our own, trusting that His timing is perfect, and trusting that He will always lead us to the right place at the right time. As we trust Him, we will see His faithfulness unfold in our lives. When God opens a door, it's not just about us, it's about His purpose. Every opportunity is an invitation to bring glory to His name, to fulfill His purpose in our lives, and to serve others. The doors God opens are not just for our benefit, they are for His kingdom. As we step through the doors He opens, we are part of His greater plan. Each door is an opportunity to make a difference, to be a light in the world and to bring others closer to Him. It's not always about the success or the recognition we receive, it's about how we can use our opportunities to glorify God and advance His kingdom. When we keep our focus on His purpose, the doors we walk through become not just personal victories, but victories for His glory. God's plan is always bigger than just us. It's about His kingdom, His purpose, and His glory. When we step through the doors He opens, we are aligning ourselves with His greater purpose for the world. Every step of faith brings us closer to fulfilling His will, and every door we walk through is a step closer to the fulfillment of His promises. The doors God opens are never just about us. They are always about something big. They are opportunities for us to bring His light into the world, to be vessels of His love and grace, and to impact the lives of others. As we continue to walk in faith, trusting in His perfect plan, we will see His goodness unfold in ways we never imagined. Each door He opens is a step closer to the fulfillment of His divine purpose for our lives. As we continue to walk in the path that God has set for us, there are moments when the road ahead seems unclear, when the challenges appear overwhelming, and when we wonder if we're truly on the right track. It's easy to doubt ourselves when things aren't progressing as we expect them to. Yet, in those very moments, God is shaping us, preparing us, and aligning us with His purpose. We often see life as a series of destinations, milestones we need to reach, but God views our journey as a continuous process of growth, learning, and transformation. He is not only concerned with where we are going, but also with how we get there. The beauty of this is that each experience, even those that seem like failures or detours, is part of his plan. Every closed door is not an obstacle, but a signpost, redirecting us to something even. When we encounter moments of difficulty or feel stuck, it can feel like we're not moving forward. We might feel discouraged and question whether we'll ever find the right path. However, God promises that every step we take is being guided by his hand. Even when we don't see it, he is at work in the background, orchestrating the circumstances of our lives to bring us closer to the destiny he has for us. The challenge lies in trusting that, even in the silence, even in the waiting, God is still working. His timing is never early, never late, but always perfect. Trusting in this truth, even when the doors seem closed or the road appears unclear, is what allows us to experience his peace and assurance. The more we understand that the waiting is not a punishment, but a preparation, the more we can embrace it as a vital part of our spiritual growth. God knows that the journey is just as important as the destination. It's in the waiting that our hearts are refined, our patience is stretched, and our faith is deepened. It's during these periods of uncertainty that God is teaching us to trust him with all our hearts, to let go of our own plans, and to surrender to his will. Trusting God fully means acknowledging that we do not have all the answers and that we are willing to follow his lead even when it requires us to take steps into the unknown. Our faith grows stronger when we choose to trust him in the silence, to keep walking even when we don't see the end of the road, and to continue praying even when we feel like our prayers aren't being answered. Every moment of doubt, every challenge is an opportunity for God to show himself to us in new ways. These moments become milestones in our spiritual journey where we learn to rely on him more deeply, and as we surrender our control, we begin to see the doors that he opens for us more clearly. These doors might not look the way we expected them to, and they may not lead to the outcomes we envisioned, but they are part of his perfect plan. God doesn't always open doors that are easy or comfortable. In fact, he often opens the doors that require the most faith. These are the doors that lead to growth, to deeper intimacy with him, and to a life that is aligned with his will. When we walk through the doors he opens, we are stepping into a future that he has already prepared for us. And even though the road may be difficult, even though the challenges may seem insurmountable, we can trust that he is with us every step of the way. God is not only interested in our destination, but in who we become along the way. The waiting periods, the challenges, the closed doors, they are all tools that God uses to shape us, to refine us, and to prepare us for what he has in store. Through every trial, we are becoming more like him, more equipped to handle the blessings he wants to give us. These moments of difficulty aren't a reflection of God's absence. They are a testimony of his active involvement in our lives. He is teaching us patience, resilience, and trust. God knows exactly when we are ready for the blessings he has for us. If he hasn't opened a door yet, it's not because he is withholding something good from us. Rather, it is because he is waiting for the perfect moment when we are fully prepared to step into that next phase of his plan. It's in this waiting, this period of preparation, that we learn to rely on him fully, to trust that he has our best interest at heart. It's easy to focus on the closed doors and the things that seem out of our control, but God is asking us to focus on his faithfulness. When we look back over our lives, we can see how he has been with us every step of the way, how he has carried us through the challenges, and how he has faithfully opened doors at the right time. This track record of faithfulness is a powerful reminder that God will never leave us or forsake us. The God who opened doors in the past is the same God who will open doors for us in the future. But we have to be patient and trust in his timing. The doors he opens are not always the doors we expect. Sometimes we have to walk through doors that don't seem to make sense at first. These doors might take us on a path that is different from what we imagined. But if we trust him, we will see that they lead to exactly where we need to be. God's doors are always aligned with his will, and his will is always for our good. When we step through the doors he opens, we are stepping into his perfect plan for our lives. We can walk confidently, knowing that he is leading us and that nothing can stop the purpose he has for us. As we continue to walk by faith, we begin to see how God is using every part of our journey to prepare us for what lies ahead. Even the closed doors, the waiting seasons, and the detours are part of his divine design. He is working in ways we can't always see, but when we look back, we'll realize that he was guiding us the whole time. Every door that opens and every door that remains closed is part of his greater purpose for us. It is in these moments that we learn to trust him more deeply, to follow him more closely, and to embrace his will for our lives. We must learn to rest in the truth that God knows what's best for us. He sees the end from the beginning and knows what will bring us the greatest joy, fulfillment, and peace. The doors he opens are not just opportunities for us to succeed or achieve our own desires. They are invitations to partner with him in his greater plan for the world. Each door is an opportunity to serve others, to bring his love to those around us, and to make a difference in the world. When we walk through the doors that God opens for us, we are not just stepping into a future of success or personal gain. We are stepping into a life that is part of his divine mission to restore the world to himself. Every door is a chance to bring his light into the darkness, to be a witness of his grace, and to bring his kingdom to earth. The more we surrender our own plans and desires, the more we are able to see the doors he opens with clarity. And when we step through those doors, we know that we are exactly where we need to be. In each season of waiting, each challenge, and each closed door, God is working in us, preparing us for something greater. It's not always easy, but when we trust his timing and his plan, we will see that every step we've taken has led us to the place he has designed for us. And when the right door opens, we will walk through it with confidence, knowing that it is part of his perfect will for our life. Each door we walk through brings us closer to the purpose he has called us to fulfill, and in the end, it's not just about us, it's about advancing his kingdom and bringing glory to his name. As we journey further along the path that God has laid out for us, we realize that life is not always as straightforward as we would like it to be. There are moments when we feel like we're at a crossroads, unsure of which direction to take. These moments of uncertainty are often the times when we need to trust God the most. It's easy to walk in faith when everything is going well, but true faith is forged in the fires of doubt, in those times when we don't know what's ahead. In these moments, it's crucial to remember that God is not surprised by our circumstances. He is not caught off guard by the detours or the obstacles we face. He has already been to the end of the road and knows what's ahead. While we may feel lost or uncertain, he is always with us, guiding us step by step. Trusting in his plan requires us to surrender our need to control the outcome and to lean into his guidance. It means choosing to follow him even when the road is unclear, knowing that he will provide us with everything we need along the way. One of the most challenging aspects of our journey with God is learning to wait. Waiting is often seen as a passive activity, something that we must endure until the next phase of our lives begins. However, waiting in God's kingdom is never wasted time. It is during these waiting seasons that God is doing his most significant work in us. We may not see it immediately, but each moment of waiting is a moment that God is using to refine our hearts, to deepen our understanding, and to prepare us for the future he has for us. Waiting doesn't mean that nothing is happening. It means that God is at work, often behind the scenes, orchestrating things we can't yet see. This is why waiting requires trust. Trust that God is working even when we can't perceive it. Trust that he is shaping us during the waiting, and trust that when the time is right, he will open the door. There is a profound beauty in surrendering to God's timing, even when it feels like we're standing still. The waiting, though difficult, is a place of transfer. It's in the waiting that our character is molded, that we learn to depend on God instead of our own understanding. And while the process may not always be easy, it is essential for our growth. Just as a plant needs time to grow before it can bear fruit, so do we need time to grow in faith, strength, and wisdom before we can step into the blessings that God has in store for us. It's easy to become discouraged when we feel like we're waiting for something that never seems to come. We might wonder why we are being held back, or why the door we want so badly to open remains shut. Yet it is precisely in these moments that God is teaching us to rely on him, to trust in his timing, and to believe that he is faithful. God's delay is not denial. Just because we haven't received the answer we want, doesn't mean that God isn't working on our behalf. In fact, his delays are often a sign that he is preparing something greater for us. When we look back on the times in our lives when things didn't unfold as we expected, we often realize that God was at work behind the scenes preparing us for something better. The door that we thought was closed was actually protecting us from something that wouldn't have been in our best interest. God's delays are always purposeful. He is not keeping us from something good. He is positioning us for something better. It's in these moments of uncertainty that our faith is tested the most. But it is also in these moments that our faith can grow the most. God invites us to trust him even when we don't understand why something is happening. He calls us to believe that he is good, that he has a plan for our lives, and that he is always working things out for our good. Even when things seem to be falling apart, God is always at work in the background, weaving the threads of our lives together in ways we cannot yet comprehend. This is where we must learn to walk by faith, not by sight. When we look at our circumstances with human eyes, it can be easy to become discouraged. But when we choose to trust in God's promises, when we choose to believe that he is in control, we are walking by faith. Walking by faith means choosing to believe in God's goodness, even when we don't have all the answers. It means stepping out in obedience, even when we don't see the full picture. And when we walk by faith, we are able to experience the peace that only God can provide. This peace is not based on our circumstances, but on the confidence that God is in control and that He is leading us in the right direction. There is a deep peace that comes from knowing that God is with us, guiding us every step of the way. Even when we don't understand why something is happening, we can trust that God is working it out for our good. As we continue to walk with God, we learn that every step we take in faith is a step closer to the fulfillment of His promise. Every step of obedience is a step closer to the blessings He has in store for us. Even though the road may be long and the journey may be difficult, we can trust that God is with us every step of the way. He has never left us, and He never will. He is always faithful to fulfill His promise. As we walk in faith, we begin to understand that the journey itself is just as important as the destination. It's not just about where we're going, but about who we are becoming along the way. Each challenge we face, each obstacle we overcome, is shaping us into the people God has called us to be. The more we surrender to His will, the more we become aligned with His purpose. The more we trust Him, the more we begin to see His plan unfolding in our lives. The more we trust Him, the more we are able to step through the doors He opens for us with confidence, knowing that He is leading us exactly where we need to be. The right door is not always the door that looks the easiest or the most convenient. Sometimes God opens doors that require the most faith and the most courage. But when we step through those doors, we are stepping into His divine purpose for our lives. And although the road may not always be easy, we can be confident that it is always worth it. The blessings that await us on the other side of obedience are far greater than anything we could have planned for ourselves. When we trust God, we can be assured that He will always lead us to the right place at the right time. There is a greater purpose at work in our lives, one that we may not always see, but one that we can trust. God is always working for our good, even when things don't make sense. And when we trust Him, we begin to experience His faithfulness in ways we could never have imagined. So as you walk through life and face the challenges that lie ahead, remember that God is with you. Trust Him with every step you take. Believe that His plans for you are greater than anything you could have imagined. And when the right door opens, walk through it with confidence, knowing that you are stepping into God's perfect plan for your life. As we continue to walk in faith, we start to realize that life's journey is not only about achieving our goals or reaching our destination, but about becoming the people God wants us to be. Often we get caught up in the hustle of life, chasing after dreams and desires, thinking that the next accomplishment or the next door that opens will finally bring us the fulfillment we seek. But the truth is, God is more interested in who we are becoming than what we are. Every experience, every challenge, every closed door is an opportunity for us to grow and to become more like Christ. The pursuit of our dreams is important, but so is the process of becoming the person who is ready to handle those dreams. When we face challenges and setbacks, it's easy to become discouraged and to wonder if we're on the right path. We may question whether God is truly guiding us or if we're just spinning our wheels, going in circles. But what if the detours, the struggles, and the delays are actually part of the process? What if God is using these very moments to shape us into the person we need to be in order to handle the blessings He has in store for us? As we walk through life, God is constantly refining us, teaching us patience, resilience, and faith. He is molding us into the people He has called us to be, preparing us for the doors He will open in the future. The waiting periods, the moments of uncertainty, are not in. They are essential steps in our spiritual journey. During these times, God is working in our hearts, deepening our understanding and building our faith. When we are willing to surrender to His process, we allow Him to do His perfect work in us. This is where true growth happens, when we choose to trust God's plan, even when we don't understand it. The waiting seasons are not only about waiting for external things to change, they are about allowing God to change us internally. When we stop focusing on what we don't have and start focusing on what God is doing in us, we begin to see the blessings in the process. Sometimes it's easy to get distracted by what's happening around us. We see others moving ahead, achieving success, and reaching milestones, while we seem to be stuck. We may feel like we are missing out, like we're being left behind, but we must remember that God's plan for us is unique. The doors that He opens for us may not be the same as the ones He opens for others, but that doesn't make our journey any less significant. In fact, it is often through the waiting, through the closed doors, and through the struggles that we experience the most profound growth. We are often called to trust God in the places where we can't see the outcome. Trust is not about knowing how things will unfold, it's about knowing that God is trustworthy, even when the path is unclear. We may not understand why certain doors are closed or why certain opportunities haven't come to fruition, but we can trust that God's timing is perfect. He knows what's best for us, even when we can't see it. Trusting in His timing means letting go of our own plans and allowing Him to lead us in the right direction. When we take our hands off the wheel and trust God's guidance, we are acknowledging that He is in control. We may not have all the answers, but we can rest in the knowledge that God does. He sees the end from the beginning, and He knows what is best for us. One of the most difficult things to do is to release our grip on our own timeline and surrender to God's timing. We live in a world that values speed and instant results. We want things now and we want them our way. But God's timing is different. He doesn't operate on our schedule. His ways are higher than ours, and His understanding far exceeds our own. We may not understand why He takes His time in answering our prayers, or why He seems to delay the opening of certain doors, but we can trust that He is at work. It's in those moments when we feel like we're waiting forever, that God is doing the most important. The time of waiting is often the time when He is refining our hearts, preparing us for what lies ahead. It's also during these times that we learn to lean into Him more fully. We begin to realize that the real blessing is not just in the destination, but in the process of growing closer to God, the process of learning to trust Him more, and the process of becoming the person He has called us to. As we embrace God's timing and surrender our plans to Him, we begin to see His hand at work in ways we never imagined. We may not always see the immediate results of our waiting, but when the right door finally opens, we will see that it was worth the wait. The growth that happens during the waiting season will prepare us for the blessing on the other side. God doesn't just open doors for us to walk through them, He opens doors when we are ready. And sometimes He needs us to grow in certain areas before He can lead us through the next door. When we are walking in faith, we don't need to rush through the doors that God opens for us. We can trust that He will lead us at the right time. There's no need to force things or try to make things happen on our own. We simply need to follow His lead and trust that He will open the doors at the perfect moment. The doors that God opens are not just about our success or fulfillment, they are about His purpose. God's plan for our lives is much bigger than just us. When He opens a door, it's not only for our benefit but for His kingdom. He is inviting us to partner with Him in His work on earth. Every opportunity we receive is an invitation to serve Him, to bring His light to others, and to make a difference in the world. We must see every door as an opportunity to glorify God, to serve others, and to fulfill the calling He has placed on our lives. This shift in perspective can make all the difference. When we stop seeing doors as just opportunities for personal gain and start seeing them as opportunities to serve God and others, we begin to experience true fulfillment. True success is not found in what we achieve for ourselves, but in what we accomplish for God's kingdom. When we walk through the doors that He opens, we are stepping into His plan, and His plan is always good. We may not always understand it, and it may not always be easy, but we can trust that it is always for our good. As we continue on this journey of faith, we are learning to trust God more fully, to lean on Him more deeply, and to walk in the knowledge that His plan for our lives is better than anything we could have imagined. When we walk by faith, trusting that He is in control, we can be assured that He will lead us to the right doors at the right time. So as you face the doors ahead, trust that God has already prepared a way for you. Trust that He is with you every step of the way. And when the right door opens, walk through it with confidence, knowing that it is part of His perfect plan for your life. As we journey through life, we often encounter moments that challenge our sense of control and stability. The paths we envision for ourselves may not always align with the reality we face. It is easy to become disheartened when things don't turn out as we planned, or when the doors we hope to walk through seem permanently shut. However, it is precisely in these moments of uncertainty that our faith is called to a higher level. In the quiet spaces, when everything feels still or even stagnant, God is working, shaping, and preparing us for something far greater than we can see. It is during these times that we must hold on to the truth that our Heavenly Father is both sovereign and loving, and He works all things for our good, even when we can't understand why. The beauty of walking with God is that even in the dark valleys, He is walking right beside us, leading us with His perfect wisdom. Though we may feel overwhelmed by our circumstances, His plan remains unchanged. and his timing is flawless. Trusting God with the unknown requires a surrendering of our own understanding and the willingness to allow his perfect will to unfold in its time. Sometimes we are so focused on the outcome that we miss the important lessons being taught to us along the way. Growth often happens in the waiting, in the quiet moments when we feel like nothing is moving. These are the times that God is refining us, deepening our faith, and transforming our hearts. It's in the waiting that we learn to rely on God's strength, not our own. This is where the process of becoming who he has called us to be takes place. It is easy to become impatient, especially in a world that celebrates instant gratification and constant progress. We live in a culture that measures success by how quickly things happen, and we often find ourselves pressured to meet deadlines, to check things off our to-do list, to reach certain milestones. But God's timeline doesn't always match our own. His ways are not our ways, and his timing is rarely what we expect. This can be frustrating, but it is in those moments that we must trust that his delay is not a denial. God doesn't delay because he is indifferent to our needs, nor does he hold back from us out of spite. His delays are purposeful, and they are part of his plan to equip us for what he has in store. We may not always know why God has us wait for what we long for, but we can be certain that he is preparing us for something better. He knows that we are not always ready for what we desire, and in his wisdom, he allows us to grow, learn, and become the person who can handle the blessings he has prepared. The challenge comes when we try to rush the process, when we push ahead of God's timing, believing that we know better, or that the waiting is pointless. In these times, God is inviting us to trust him more deeply, to embrace the waiting as a necessary part of his plan. He knows the desires of our hearts, and he is working behind the scenes to bring those desires into alignment with his will. But first, we must be patient and trust that he is doing a work in us that will make us ready to receive those blessings. There is a purpose in every season, whether it's a season of waiting, of trials, or of growth. We may not understand it in the moment, but when we look back on our lives, we can often see that it was in those seasons that we experienced the most profound transformation. God uses every part of our journey to shape us into the person we are meant to become. Each challenge, each closed door, each period of uncertainty is an opportunity for us to grow in faith, in resilience, and in truth. These moments teach us to lean on God, to depend on his strength, and to rest in his promises. And as we continue on this path, we begin to see that the purpose of our journey is not merely to achieve success or reach our goals, but to become more like Christ. This is where true fulfillment lies, not in the things we accomplish, but in the person we become as we follow God's will. It's in the moments of surrender, when we let go of our own desires and plans, that we begin to experience the peace that comes from trusting in God's perfect time. The doors that God opens for us are not just opportunities for personal gain, but opportunities to serve him and bring glory to his name. Every door that opens is a chance for us to partner with God in his work, to be a light in the world, and to make a difference in the lives of others. The success we experience through these doors is not for our own glory, but for the advancement of his kingdom. We may not always see the full picture or understand how God is working, but we can trust that every door he opens is part of a bigger plan. The key is to stay faithful, to keep walking in obedience, and to trust that God will open the right doors at the right time. As we walk in obedience, we begin to understand that it is not about the doors we walk through, but about the heart behind our walk. God cares more about who we are becoming than what we are doing. When we walk through the doors he opens, we are stepping into his purpose for our lives. And even when the road is difficult or unclear, we can trust that he is leading us exactly where we need to be. His plan is always for our good, and his ways are always higher than our own. It's easy to get discouraged when things aren't going as we expected, but we must remember that God is always at work. He is always behind the scenes, orchestrating events, aligning circumstances, and preparing us for the future he has for us. When we feel uncertain, we must lean on his promises. He will never leave us or forsake us, and he will never lead us to a place where his grace cannot sustain us. God's plan for our lives is always better than anything we could plan for ourselves. While we may not always understand the path we are on, we can be confident that he is leading us to something far greater than we could have imagined. The doors he opens for us are not just about us. They are about his glory, his kingdom, and his eternal plan. Every step we take in faith brings us closer to the fulfillment of his purpose for our lives. And when we walk through the right doors, we can be sure that we are stepping into the destiny God has designed for us. Our journey is not just about reaching the destination, but about becoming the person God wants us to be along the way. As we walk in obedience, we will see that the waiting, the challenges, and the closed doors were all part of His perfect plan to bring us to a place of greater purpose and fulfillment. And when the right door finally opens, we will walk through it with confidence, knowing that it was God who led us there. Our journey with God is one of transformation, growth, and trust. As we trust Him, He will lead us to the doors He has prepared for us. And when we walk through them, we will experience His blessings in ways we never imagined. It's not about the doors themselves, but about the process of walking with God and becoming more like Him along the way. And that ultimately is where true fulfillment is found. As we walk further on this journey with God, we come to realize that the lessons we learn along the way are often the most significant part of the path itself. We may set out with specific goals and dreams in mind, believing that achieving them will bring us fulfillment. Yet time and again we find that true fulfillment is not found in reaching these goals, but in how we have grown through the challenges, setbacks, and even the long waits. The process of becoming more like Christ is far more valuable than any accomplishment we could achieve in our own strength. Our hearts and minds are shaped, refined, and transformed as we go through experiences that stretch our faith and teach us to rely fully on God. It's easy to get caught up in the desire for success or recognition. We may spend our time comparing ourselves to others, wondering why their doors seem to open so easily while we seem to be stuck in a cycle of waiting or struggle. But in these moments, God is calling us to shift our focus. Instead of focusing on the success of others or the closed doors in front of us, we are invited to look inward. This is a time of deep personal reflection and spiritual growth. The more we focus on becoming who God has called us to be, the less we are affected by the noise and distractions around us. We can trust that God's purpose for our lives is uniquely designed, and even when we can't see the next step clearly, He is leading us with perfect love and wisdom. This is why the concept of surrender is so vital. Surrendering does not mean giving up or resigning ourselves to whatever comes our way. Instead, it is about letting go of our need to control every situation and allowing God to guide us, trusting that His plan is better than our own. Surrender is an active, continuous process of choosing to rely on God's strength rather than our own. It's in the moments when we surrender our desires, our plans, and our timeline that we allow God to show us the path He has laid out for us. The waiting periods, which may seem frustrating at first, are actually opportunities for us to lean into God more deeply. As we wait, He is teaching us valuable lessons about patience, dependence on Him, and the beauty of trusting His timing. There is a profound peace that comes from knowing that God is in control, even when we don't see the end result. This peace is not found in the absence of challenges, but in the presence of God's faithfulness and assurance that He is working all things for our good. As we walk through life, the more we yield to God's leading, the more we begin to recognize His fingerprints all over our journey. We start to see that the challenges we face, the doors that are closed, and the moments of uncertainty are not random. They are part of a greater design. It's through these experiences that God shapes us into people who are capable of handling the blessings He has in store. Without the tests, without the trials, without the waiting, we would not be equipped for the future He has planned. We would not be able to appreciate or steward the blessings He is preparing. Sometimes God allows us to face difficult situations because He knows that we need the growth they bring in order to step into the fullness of our calling. He knows that the pain we experience now will be part of the foundation of the purpose He has for our lives. Even when we don't understand why things are happening the way they are, we can trust that God sees the bigger picture. He knows exactly what we need and when we need it. Our part is to trust Him and to keep moving forward in faith, knowing that He is faithful to open the doors at the right time. This trust is what allows us to face life with courage, even when we don't know the way ahead. When we walk by faith, we don't have to have all the answers. We just have to trust that God is leading us. His word is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path, guiding us step by step. As we follow His lead, we experience His faithfulness in deeper ways. The more we trust Him, the more we see how He has been with us every step of the way, even when we couldn't see it. The moments that seemed like setbacks were actually steps forward, and the doors that seemed closed were actually protecting us from paths that wouldn't have served His purpose for our lives. There is a beauty in trusting God's plan, even when it doesn't make sense. It allows us to experience His peace in the midst of uncertainty, knowing that He is working things out for our good. This peace doesn't come from the circumstances, but from knowing that God is with us and that He is in control. When we walk through doors that God opens, we don't have to fight or struggle to keep them open. We don't have to manipulate people or circumstances to make things happen. When God opens a door, it will open wide and no one can shut it. His timing is perfect, and His plans are always better than anything we could have imagined for ourselves. The doors He opens are not always the ones we expect, and they don't always lead to the outcomes we envision. But they are always the right doors, leading us exactly where we need to be. The journey is just as important as the destination. It's in the waiting, in the trusting, and in the walking by faith that we experience God's transforming power in our lives. We are being prepared for something greater, something that we can't fully comprehend yet. And while we may not know what the future holds, we can trust that God holds the future. He has been faithful in the past, and He will be faithful in the future. As we continue to walk in obedience, we begin to understand that life is not just about what we achieve or the doors we walk through. It's about who we become along the way. It's about becoming more like Christ, growing in faith, and learning to trust God more deeply with every step. The doors He opens are not just for us. They are for His glory, His kingdom, and His eternal purpose. When we walk through them, we are not just stepping into a new opportunity, we are stepping into His greater plan for our lives and for the world. Every door is an opportunity to bring His light to those around us, to serve others, and to fulfill the calling He has placed on our lives. This shift in perspective allows us to walk through doors with confidence, knowing that we are exactly where God wants us to be. And when the right door opens, we will walk through it with a sense of peace, knowing that it is part of His perfect plan. The more we trust God's leading, the more we experience His peace and His faithfulness. The more we surrender our own plans, the more we begin to see the doors He is opening for us. Each door we walk through brings us closer to the fulfillment of His promises, and each step we take in faith is a step closer to the destiny He has for us. The waiting, the struggles, the closed doors, none of it is wasted. It is all part of God's perfect plan, shaping us into the people He has called us to be. As we continue on this journey, we can be confident that God is with us every step of the way, leading us to the right doors at the right time. And when we walk through them, we will find fulfillment, peace, and purpose in ways we never imagined. As we continue to embrace the path that God has laid out for us, we often find ourselves in moments that require a deeper level of trust than we ever thought possible. It's easy to follow God when the road is smooth, when the doors are open, and when the sun is shining brightly on our journey. But the true test of faith comes when we are walking through the storm, when the doors seem closed, and when everything in our lives feels uncertain.